Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Epic Insights with Ovationz. I am your host, Aaron Ellis. Today, I am joined with Jim Kerr. Now, Jim is a management consultant, a #1 ranked leadership coach, keynote speaker, 6 times best-selling author, and thought leader. With decades in the trenches, Jim's passion is to help leaders make change happen in themselves, their teams, and their organizations. Jim, welcome to the show.
Aaron, it's so great to be here with you today.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we got about 20 minutes. I know we could talk a lot more. I'm glad we got a little time beforehand, but let's see what we can bring to the world today in this 20 minutes. I do love to hear what brought somebody to their current iteration of their passion, like what you're doing today. What the good, the bad, and the ugly, whatever you want to share, what brought us to where you are today?
Yeah, well, you know what? I had the opportunity to work with some consultants really early in my career, and I had a mentor who just threw me to the lions. And what I quickly learned when I got involved in the project that they were leading for us was, gee, I think I know some stuff that they don't know, and maybe, and maybe, and maybe there's a path for me to take to become a consultant too one day.
Mhm.
And it was from that early experience that I started to think about what does it mean to be a consultant? What does it mean to be a coach? And within a few years, I had written a book and I was off and running. People were calling me and saying, hey, can you come in and talk to us about, what you wrote about here? And I started to recognize like, hey, I can sell this advisory service. And
Mhm.
that was over 30 years ago. I hate to admit, but I've been doing consulting and coaching on my own ever since then.
Wow. So literally decades in the trenches. I love
Yeah.
that. I love when I see that stuff. Now, I want to actually go into one of the things I said in your introduction because I think it's something that's worth unpacking. I'm assuming it is, and I know how I'd unpack it. But you you said you help leaders make change happen in themselves, their teams, and their organizations. I see significance in the order you presented those 3 things. And
Yeah.
I'm curious on if how you look at that. The fact that you said themselves, their teams, and their organizations, not their organizations than themselves. So I'd love to hear your aspect on that as far as leadership goes.
Yeah, man. Change happens between our two ears first. You've got to kind of make it, real in your own head before you can bring it out to your team and to your organization. So, a lot of the work that I do is particularly on the coaching side starts with mindset and with self-awareness and making sure that, the people I'm working with, the leaders that I'm trying to help have a really clear understanding of what they're trying to accomplish. And then we work a plan to help them actually accomplish that stuff. And it's driven, of course, through other people. So that's the team side. And then ultimately it makes a difference in the organization because those players all work for the same company.
Yeah, yeah. Is there things that you found in the recent years that you've been trying to teach for even years before that weren't necessarily embraced that are now being embraced around leadership and around even self-awareness? You brought up self-awareness, and that's what sparked
Mm.
that thought. Are you finding a shift, and what is the shift you're seeing?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. At first, the pandemic just really screwed up a lot of people, and as a consequence, getting back to basics, really trying to help people discover what they're trying to do and what's important to them, has been a really sort of central theme the last few years on the coaching side. And once we get out there and we start talking about what's it really mean to lead, um, one of the first sort of aha moments, if you will, that I help folks discover is leadership's really about the people you're leading. It's not about yourself.
Mhm.
So it's not again, back to mindset. It's not a title. It's a choice to lead, and helping folks get that square has been, I think, really rewarding because I'm watching these folks grasp the concept and apply it, and actually start to really make a huge difference in the organizations they're part of.
Yeah, I love what you just said because it goes into one of my other questions I had around the title of your company, Indispensable Consulting, and that thought being indispensable. And I know that when I've brought up some of the topics or some of the structures and the mindset structures that I teach leaders, there's a little bit of a confusion. And I'm curious on how you reconcile the indispensable aspect with the fact that it's not about them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, indispensable by definition means I can't live without it.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to become the leader that your company can't live without. You want to become the organization that your customers can't live without. And again, it starts between your ears. You got to make sure you're committed to doing whatever it takes to become that person, to become that organization, to become that team leader.
Mhm.
So yeah, indispensability is about, working that little extra to be the one that everybody really needs, on their team.
Yeah, and again, like I think you've alluded to this, but it's not about look at me, look at me, look at me in that indispensable sense, like
Right.
making sure that everybody knows who, like you know what I mean.
Right.
It's about how you're working with, and as I put it, working with and within the people in your
Absolutely.
right. Very cool. Let's talk about vision and mission. I read some things that I was going through that made me think about the difference between vision and mission and the obstacles I've faced with companies when I've gone in and helped them with that aspect of their company. So when you've worked with that in companies, or what's your structures around or beliefs around the difference between vision and mission and what you've seen in companies and how you've maybe helped them decipher those two things and what that's done for them.
Yeah, they're certainly related, but they're really, really different. Vision is really about describing what you're trying to be. So it's aspirational. It's about defining that future that's so compelling, so engaging. People who work within the organization can't wait to help you achieve it,
Yeah.
right? Mission is really the stuff that you're going to do to get there. So it's applying the concepts that are outlined in your vision. And I tend to promote the notion that a vision statement will not suffice. You need a vision story. You need to be able to
Mm.
describe in vivid detail what it looks like to be inside that organization, how you operate with your customers, the kinds of people that live inside the place, what tools they use to do their work, how they interact with each other, what the leadership team is like, and so on. And notice I stayed away from financial goals. And
Yeah.
too often I find organizations that are working on vision, mission, and strategies, they're all worried about, the financial impact. And to me, that's the least of it. If you're able to articulate a vision that's really compelling, people get behind it, you're going to be able to achieve anything.
I love how you left the financial aspect out. I think about this on when I've worked with just people too in general about the financial freedom. I thought about financial freedom. It's not about amount of money. They might have a thought in their mind, but it's about how they're going to feel when they have it. That's what they're seeking.
Yeah,
They're seeking an experience. You know what I mean? And if they can learn to really curate the story of that experience without necessarily it's not that you can't put in some static numbers in there, but when you get attached to what I say, the imagery, you lose the essence, right?
right.
And the essence is the vision. So I love the way you described it. Exactly in different words, but exactly what I find. And I found a lot of companies mix that up. I'll say, "What's your vision statement?" And they'll give me a mission
Absolutely.
statement, right?
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
what is your thought on how, and maybe you do this, maybe you don't, because we haven't really talked about this, but what is your thought about on having the company that truly does understand their vision, then getting every single department to literally have the structural integrity of the vision and what they're doing, how they're doing it, how they're thinking, and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, so it's so critically important. Once you've done the work of describing where you want to be, and again, I think you need a story. I don't think if we compared vision statements from different players in the same industry, they all look about the same.
Yeah.
You know, but the difference comes in all of the other details that underpins that, and that's the thing that's unique to each organization. So you got to tell it in a story. Once you've got that story defined, you've got to socialize it. So the way you get alignment, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but I think that's the essence of your
Yeah,
question there. It's
it
like,
is.
how do I get everybody behind the vision? Is
100%.
yeah, it's really about alignment, and the only way you can ensure that that happens is if people understand what the vision really is and what it means to them and what's in it for them,
Yeah.
why they should embrace it, why they should work hard to help you achieve that vision as a top leader. And that's the part that I see a lot of organizations struggle with. They'll have the vision. They may even craft a really good story, but they don't get it out there. So people are still scratching their head wondering, when I'm in the trenches and I've got to make a decision, is this decision in alignment with the achievement of our vision or not?
Yeah.
And if they don't know the answer to that question, chances are they can make some mistakes, and that can really be costly to your business. So it's really important to socialize it and make sure everybody understands what it is and what's in it for them. And once you get them, marching to the same drum, you're going to be unstoppable.
I think what you're sharing is absolutely vital for a company to thrive. And I think it's also one of the things that is difficult and creates confusion. And when there's confusion, they just don't do it.
Right.
Right? So I want to unpack this a little bit further. And one of the things that I'd love to hear how you do this. And if you do this, I'm assuming you do from everything you're saying. But one of the things that I do with companies too is I teach them how to understand the vision of their employees in essence and the vision of the company in essence, and literally help embrace the vision of the employees and have the vision of the company embraced by employees. So literally merging them together. You
Hmm.
can't do that on the imagery of a vision. You can only do it on the essence of a vision. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm curious on if you do anything similar to that and the obstacles you've met with clients and how you've helped them understand. No, it's not that, oh, this person wants to achieve this and you want to achieve this. Those are not vision. I'm talking about the essence of the feeling, the experience. How do you help them merge that to where it's like the structural integrity is there between the vision of the individual employee and the vision of the company?
Yeah, the thing that's interesting about connecting dots is if you don't help people connect dots, they can connect them any way they want.
Yeah.
So it's important to kind of give them the roadmap. And I think that during the vision socialization effort, which follows the actual creation of your vision story, you've got to help people connect to the vision and see how they can benefit by being able to achieve it. When they see what's in it for them, when you give them the why, quote unquote, you hear
Mhm.
a lot of consultants talk about the why, the why. There's truth in it. You've got to help people understand why they should embrace the story, because it's going to help them do X, whatever, fill in the blank. It's financial
Mhm.
security. It's freedom to express themselves. It's the ability to bring their best selves to work every day. So getting that stuff to connect is crucial to the success of the organization, in my opinion.
100% agree. Now, is there an example you can give us of a client you've worked with? We don't have to name names, of course, but that you've gone in that you saw them struggling. You could see that okay, there's not congruency and integrity, structural integrity between their vision and the vision being actually executed and embraced in the different departments and the employees, and then what you taught and how things shifted for them. Can you give us an example on that?
Sure. Yeah, there was an insurer in the Midwest. They're a specialty insurer. Um, we crafted a really good vision story, and one of the things that came out during the development was the fact that folks inside the organization, lower in the bowels of the organization, if you will, were uncertain whether or not the leadership team really bought into the vision.
Mm.
So they felt in interviews and workshops that I ran along the way that there was a disconnect between what the top leaders were saying and how they were behaving. So one of the things we did was we said, okay, it's time to unveil the vision. What we're going to do is have what amounts to an in-house event where we're going to put, a series of, you know, uh, uh, placeholders,
Mhm.
like you would at a conference. We're going to put an executive in each place. We're going to have that executive discuss some aspect of the story. We're going to have our staff rotate through all these booths, which is the word I was struggling for a minute ago.
Yeah.
We're going to have people, come in small groups, visit each booth and get part of the story. We're going to have giveaways, logo wear, all that kind of stuff that you would normally see at a conference. And the goal was to not only socialize the vision, but to show that the leadership team was committed to it. And for them to be able to sit there in a booth and give their same 20-minute spiel a half a dozen times that day
Mhm.
to a bunch of folks as they rotated through really sealed the deal. People said it when we came out of there. We did a survey afterwards. They're like, "Wow, I really believe my leadership is committed to this.
Wow.
My team is ready to take no prisoners." And
Wow.
that was that was what we were trying to achieve. We were able to do it. And what's really interesting about this, Aaron, 3 years later, they doubled their revenue. So within 3 years, which was part of the story, they were
Mhm.
able to grow that business by first defining what they were trying to do, getting people engaged and committed, and then doing what it takes to get there. It was really cool to watch.
That was my next question. Like a
Yeah.
quantifiable example. That like because a lot of times, and this goes into my other question too, where like there's a lot of things that I've taught that literally gave the whole like the dog like turning their head or like, what are you talking about? Right. Right.
Right.
But once they embraced it, they couldn't quite quantify what I was talking about. Right. But then they're like, I can't even like this is amazing. Right. So
Yeah.
I love that you shared that. Now you've said a vision story. Obviously we hear about vision statements all the time. How long is a vision story? Is there a methodology or a structure that you give people on a vision story as opposed to a vision statement?
Absolutely. I mean, I tend to template and create methodology around everything that I do with a client. So yes, I've got a template that I use to help clients develop their stories. Typical story looks like, I don't know, 10 or 15 pages.
Okay.
It covers a set of categories. I think I listed some earlier in our conversation, leadership mindset, workplace, teamwork, etc. And then through a series of interviews, I interviewed the top leaders first, one on one, just to get a sense of what each person thinks about this and where they want to see and what their personal vision for the business might be. Then I hit the middle layer of the organization, which is really crucial. It's the middle management makes or breaks this stuff. So we've got
Mhm.
to spend time there to help them not only understand where the top leadership wants to bring it, but also solicit their input so they have their fingerprints on what that vision's about too. They can see
Yeah.
their ideas in the story. Okay.
Mhm.
And then the lowest level in the organization, the real troops in the trenches, the supervisors and the people that are doing the frontline work, involve them too in workshops and in survey instruments, so they have a say. Because the
Yeah.
more people can see their ideas in that story, the more apt they are to work hard to try to achieve it. If it looks like too much, ivory tower, it's hard to get buy-in. But if
Yeah.
they see that, wow, that's my idea, and it's in there, and it's important, and it's highlighted, then chances are pretty good they'll roll up their sleeves and do what it takes to make that come true.
100%. I love how you reiterated that. And I'm going to reiterate it one more time. Every single level from the C-suite down to the mid-level management down to the people in the trenches, they need to be involved. You need to have their ideas
Absolutely.
involved in that, right? They need like the way I put this is that it's working with and within your
Right.
employees, right?
Right.
You got to get to know them. You got to have the buy-in. They have to actually be involved in it. So it's beautiful that you've done that, right? And I think that's one of the things that has been missing when I've gone into companies. Like they get a structure in place, they have a communication structure in place and everything, but it's all top down, right? And they're not really involving anybody. Even they don't even have a culture or an atmosphere or an energy space projected of collaboration to get feedback. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I can see that's amazing that you shared that. We're hitting the we're hitting 18, well, almost 19 minutes here. I do love to hear the personal side of people. I do believe that that's one of those things that I was bringing into companies years ago, that personal and professional are not separate. Where I came up, my father's generations, they're definitely separate. So so I love to hear the personal side of people. Who's Jim? The person, like, is there family? Is there children? Do you surf on the weekends? Do you golf? What do you do? What do you love to do?
Yeah, well, my kids are up and launched, which is an accomplishment in and of themselves. I'm heading
Yeah,
into 36 years of being married to the same young lady I married way back when. Um,
beautiful.
yeah, and am an avid golfer. I'd golf every day if I could. So.
Nice. Very, very cool. I love that. So, any final thoughts you want to make sure that you share with people today? Anything that we haven't touched on, you want to make sure you get.
Well, I'll double back on the leadership thing and just kind of leave with this thought, like, remember leadership's a choice. So you've got to choose to lead. Your title doesn't mean anything. You've got to make the commitment to be a solid leader in order to be a solid leader.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. Jim, it's been a pleasure. It's been fun having you on here and stuff. I look forward to having you on more and unpacking some of this a little bit more when we have a little bit more time. I can see the value you bring, and I think it'd be fun to get you on here and even some of the things we touched on to unravel them a little bit further and help connect some dots for people. So thank you for joining us and sharing your time.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. I can't wait to do some more with you.
Yeah. All right, everybody. This has been another episode of Epic Insights. We've been talking to Jim Kerr. Check him out on ovationz.com. Watch for him on our Epic series. Watch for his episode to come out. And of course, we'll be sharing all the ways that you can reach and get in contact with him when we do put that episode out. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.